We are delighted to have Shannon Mattern here. I don't think she needs much of an introduction, but she is the pro when it comes to building a successful, profitable web business. And she's talking to us today about how web businesses leak time and money. So even though I don't have a web business, I'm more on the writing and marketing side. I know a lot of this is applicable, so I'm going to be taking notes like crazy. Shannon, thank you so much for joining from Phoenix. We are delighted to be spending time with you today.
I am thrilled to be here, and it's just been really fun getting to know you and Michelle and your team. You guys are you're so fun. So I put together a presentation for you all. Hopefully you can see that. See my slides there. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here and share 5 sneaky ways web design businesses leak time and money. Because if you're here and you're pretty much like every single web designer I've met, you started your business to create freedom, flexibility, and financial independence, just doing something that's super creative that you love to do. And if you're like a lot of people I've met, you get to a point in your business where you kind of find that you are not experiencing the freedom and flexibility and financial independence that you started your business for. You start to feel a little trapped. You're overworking. You're not making as much as you know you could be making, and you start to feel a little stuck. So today I'm going to break down what's really in the way of the freedom and income that you started your business for in the first place, and then I'll share 5 simple yet powerful strategies to fix the 5 most common time and money leaks that I've seen in literally thousands of web design businesses. One of the fun things about the Web Designer Academy is that it's an application only program, and so I get to look at a lot of websites of web designers and see like the what they're portraying to the world for their business, but then I also get to see the what's behind the scenes when they share like what the challenges that they're having and where they're stuck. And so the things that I'm sharing with you are, it's just really common. So if you're experiencing these things, I just need you to know that you're really, really normal. So I'll share that and the strategies to fix it. And my hopes that you really walk away with some new tools in your toolbox like today, that when you use them will result in you adding more money to your bottom line and having more time freedom that you've had and than you've had in a long time. So that's what we are covering today. So very briefly, if we haven't met before, I'm Shannon Mattern, founder of the Web Designer Academy. We help web designers stop undercharging, over-delivering, overworking, and we basically teach the skill of running a profitable, sustainable web design business. And by sustainable, I mean that you're in control of how much you are working and how much money you make. And I also host the Profitable Web Designer podcast, where we talk all things business, marketing, project management, pricing, money, strategy, mindset. Austin and I are doing an interview tomorrow. And so I'm very excited to have him on the show and get to like be all nosy and ask him all the questions. So you are in the right place if you are a web designer. It doesn't matter if you're WordPress, Squarespace, Shopify, Webflow, XD, Figma, if you're a UX designer, brand strategist, any kind of freelancer, really. I mean, like Austin said, he's not a web designer, but this applies to any service-based business. You are in the right place if you are running your business full-time or as a side hustle with the goal of going full-time. And if you love what you do, your clients love you, but sometimes it's just so overwhelming. You feel like you just want to burn it all down. So if you've ever felt that way, just give me your favorite emoji in the chat if you've ever just wanted to start over and burn it all down, because you're not alone. I wanted to do that so many times in my early days. Most of the people who come to work with us, they feel like there has to be a better way, right? Like there has to be a better way. They see other people doing it and they want that too. And so the problem that I see is that people try to fix the wrong problem. Like if they're overwhelmed, their clients are a disaster, they feel like they're working all the time. They try to change niches, change offers, change how they offer their services, change platforms, implement different tech solutions to try to automate things like a new marketing strategy, a new project management tool. And like with each attempt, they find themselves repeating the same patterns over and over and end up overwhelmed, burnt out, and plateaued in their revenue. And it's like something's just not working and you can't quite put your finger on it. So does anybody resonate with that? Yes. Yes. So I can see that I'm speaking your language. So yeah, this is so me. And I just need you guys to know that you're so normal. You are so normal. And I've coached hundreds, if not thousands, of web designers over the past 8 years. And the problem is almost never niche, portfolio, skills, bad clients, platform, software, whatever, right? What we usually see is that your business has one or more of these 5 really common time and money leaks that keep you undercharging, over delivering, and burnout. And I'm going to go into depth on these today, but then there's a free training that I'm going to share at the end that's going to take you even deeper. So let's dive in to the first time and money leak. The most common way that we see web design businesses leak time and money is what I call employee mindset. And this was probably my biggest time and money leak when I first started my freelance web design business. I was operating it like I was an employee and my clients were my boss. And the irony is that I wanted to leave my day job because I did not love the corporate environment that I was in. And I ended up like going from one terrible boss to like 15 terrible bosses. And because I was operating like I was an employee. And so if you've ever had a job in corporate America or anywhere else, you're taught that the customer is always right. You need to be a team player. You need to make sure that your boss is happy. And when we're conditioned that what it means to be a good employee is to be responsible, to keep the people around us happy, and to perform at a really high level and meet and exceed everyone's expectations and over deliver, and to do all of these things to excel as an employee. And if we do all of those things, we'll be rewarded with a raise and safety and stability and security and potentially promotions and accolades and all of these things. And so I started my web design business after a 20-year career working as an employee. And I just picked up that mindset, that conditioning, and I took that into how I worked with my clients. And I told myself, like, this is how professionals operate, right? And I treated my clients as if they were my boss. I let them dictate when everything was happening, when communication was happening. I did everything I could to keep them happy. Because I was concerned about the security. Like, if my client's not happy, I'll lose them as a client. I'll lose safety. I'll lose security. I'll lose money. So can anyone relate to this employee mindset situation? Yeah, Austin's raising his hand. You just don't realize that there is another way. And it's a very hard way to run a business when you need to control everyone's opinion of you all of the time to feel safe and secure. And you end up over delivering, undercharging. You end up, even if you have processes, even if you have an incredible project management tool, you end up not following your processes. You let your client dictate the entire relationship, and you feel like you are really burnt out and resentful. And so the solution is, one, to make sure that you have systems and processes in place, but to make sure that you have them in place at the right points in your business. You need to have them in place from the very first interaction with you that establish you as the one running the show, right? So I hear from web designers all the time. They're like, oh, I was talking to someone at my son's soccer game, and they were like, oh, you're a web designer. Tell me, like, how much do you charge? And so then they get in this situation where they're not like then just leading the person through the whole entire sales process, right? They're like, instead of saying, hey, Yeah, I'd love to talk more about your project. Here, schedule a consultation with me. They end up like starting off with a conversation and then texting, and then it turns into like it just goes sideways and off the rails. And so you need to have systems and processes in place from the very first interaction that establish you as the one like running the show, make offers in a way that not only sets boundaries with your clients, but empowers them to choose their own boundaries, taking the lead and setting the stage for how communication works, when it happens, what the project timelines are, what the protocols are for when the client wants more things done or wants to delay. And the key is that you design those systems and processes around your life, your goals, not around your clients. You write the choose your own adventure book with all of the possible endings, and every single one of those endings works for you. And then you give that book to your clients and you give them choices in such a way that no matter what they choose, their choice works for you. And so that is, you have to like think ahead. And that's what we help our students do. We teach them exactly how to put these systems and processes in place. And project management tools help you build those out. Like Moxie helps you operationalize and automate and streamline all of those systems so that you're not having to even think about it. And then you let the systems that you built around your life and your business do all the hard work, right? Excuse me. You just follow them, lead the client through them, and you end up making so much more money and honestly just having more mental capacity because you're not always thinking about how to deal with all of these different situations. You've already thought about it, you've already written the book, you have a process for that. It's operationalized, but you have to follow the systems that you set up. And in order to do that, you have to make over your employee mindset. You can't be like, I have all the systems, but in your situation here, I feel like I can't say no to you. So I'm going to say yes. And I'm just going to ignore all of my systems. Right. And people always say that no is a complete sentence. But if you don't feel safe to say no, you will never say it. You have to dismantle the belief systems that tell you that if someone's disappointed in you, you will lose your reputation and your entire business. And you have to get to the core of what's really driving you to be a good employee and question it and deconstruct it and rebuild it. And that's the real work of making over your employee mindset. So yeah, Lucola says I can relate. Willems um yeah, like we we have to be the one to do the work there. So that's the first one, is employee mindset. The second time and money leak is people pleasing. And this is like employee mindset's sneaky little cousin, right? You know you're people pleasing when you say yes to avoid conflict or feeling uncomfortable, but you do it at your own expense. You're not saying yes because you really want to say yes and you're like, this is awesome. Like, I would love to say yes to this. You're saying yes to this because you don't want to deal with what will happen, what you think might happen if you say no. And it comes at a cost to you to say yes. And people pleasing is really insidious because, of course, we want our clients to be happy. We want them to like us. We want the relationship to be good. But what makes people pleasing different than simply having a great relationship with our clients and wanting them to be happy is that we're saying yes to things that we don't want to say yes to because we want to avoid conflict or avoid a difficult conversation, or we have thoughts like, I don't want to let them down, so I'm gonna like let my family down to not and overwork and not go to this thing so that I don't let my clients down, right? So usually in this situation, your clients are so nice, right? They're not demanding, they're not bossing us around. They're the best and we want to help them. But when we're people pleasing, we're saying yes to things that we really shouldn't be saying yes to. We're not charging for what we should be charging for because, again, we don't want the client to be upset with us or disappointed or frustrated, because if they are and they don't have a good experience, then we fear deep down that they won't refer us. So they'll say negative things about us online that will cause harm to our business and our reputation and our ability to get clients in the future. And we also feel like we'd be taking advantage of them if we charged more for that thing they asked us for because they're so nice or they're in a hard spot. So How many of you here can relate to the people pleasing part, the people pleasing leak in your web design business? I just thought I was being nice. Yeah, Austin's like me. I was like, it's so hard because you're like, oh, well, the opposite of not people pleasing is just like putting up this big fence with barbed wire around it and just saying no and setting boundaries and being hard. And there is another way to do it. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. And so we like the key to fixing people pleasing is having systems and processes in place that we're willing to follow, but you have to feel safe to follow the systems and processes, right? So that's, that's one of those things where when you are stuck in people pleasing, you end up overworking. You have these feast and famine areas because you're spending too much time on things that you're not getting paid for. And you're really like burning yourself out because you're just way, way overworking and not spending time like booking another client because you're helping out this client that was in a bind and you're not charging them. It's a really vicious cycle that perpetuates until we learn how to not do it. And so once you have your systems and processes in place, and then you learn how to follow them in a way that feels good and safe to you, that's one thing, but also it has to feel healthy and sustainable for you to follow them. So you have to learn how to not need to control other people's opinions of you and learn how to hold boundaries without feeling like you're selfish or bossy or mean or letting people down. And this is a skill for people pleasers to learn. It's not that like just some people are this way and some people aren't. You can learn this skill, and it often doesn't come naturally to people, especially service providers. And so the good news is that you can learn to communicate with your clients in a way that feels safe to you without feeling like you're letting your clients down. And so I'll give you some tips on how to do that at the end of this presentation. So the third sneaky place that we see web design businesses leak time and money is what we call being in our clients' wallets. And you're in your client's wallet when you're trying to decide for them how much they should spend. And there's a couple ways that being in your client's wallets shows up. And the first way is that you make a lot of assumptions about their finances, about their ability to pay, about what they value, about what they don't value, about what they'll think of you when you charge a certain amount. And if you're not sure if you are in your client's wallets or not, how you know is that you talk about being the affordable, budget-friendly option. You worry about telling a client something is going to cost more because you worry they won't be able to afford it. If you're thinking things like, I'm charging too much for this, it's so easy for me, I'm ripping them off, I'm taking advantage of them, that's you being in their wallet. Or on the flip side, if you're like, I know they have money, they should be able to afford this, you're making an assumption about how they think about, use, and value money. And if you spend a lot of time thinking about your client's money and how they choose to spend it, you're in their wallet. And I learned this from one of my business coaches, Mariah Cause. I feel like, Austin, you said that when I read your book, I think you mentioned Mariah Cause saying this. That had like,
She's
no.
amazing.
Yes, I know, right? Like when she said that to me, it broke my brain. I was like, hold on, what? And I think she said it's like disrespectful to decide for other people what they can and can't afford. And that like something just shifted in my brain. And I was like, I've been doing this. I've been projecting my own busted money mindset onto my clients, undercharging, over delivering, trying to quote unquote protect them. And I was really doing them a huge disservice by trying to control that for them. And so what they choose to spend money on is none of your business. It's not your decision to make for your clients how they spend their money. You really don't know what their financial situation is. And Your job is to stay out of their wallet, help them understand the value of what you are offering, and show them how it will help them get what they want instead of trying to manage their money for them, right? So the other way that being in our clients' wallets manifests itself is if you're not overtly trying to like control how they spend money, you're package stuffing and overworking. So this can be a really sneaky place because you might have gotten the confidence to raise your prices, right? We see this all the time where people are like, I get it now. I can charge more. This is valuable. This is worth it. I see how my clients are going to benefit from this. But then you're like, well, if I'm going to charge that much, I need to give them all these extra bells and whistles, give them all this extra stuff. I need to do like their 5-year plan, their 5-year business plan in this one project, and they won't even be able to use all of these features, but I'm going to build it all now. Because deep down, you got to make sure that they get their money's worth. And that's another really sneaky way that you can leak time and money, because you end up putting way too much stuff in your packages, which actually creates more work for you and your client. You end up overworking, your revenue flatlines, and the project takes longer, which delays your client's ultimate results too. And then if they have something that they can't fully use because we've packaged stuff or whatever, like it's not helpful. And so the solution is to think of your clients as brilliant, capable, and resourceful humans. That's what you do when you stay out of their wallet. When you show up and you serve and you create solutions in integrity, when you believe that your clients are smart and savvy and that they don't need you to be responsible for their decisions, everything changes. And all that takes for you to do is a decision on your part to think of them as whole and capable. And learning to stay out of their wallets is just one of the most powerful things that you can do to stop undercharging and over delivering. And so the fourth place that we see web design businesses leak time and money is perfectionism. And it's so sneaky because it masquerades as professionalism, right? Perfectionism does a couple things. It will keep you from ever getting started, or it will keep you hustling. So when you fear messing up, or a client being unhappy, or like leaving a negative review, or telling someone something didn't go well, or we fear that like if we don't say yes, they're going to go into that Facebook networking group we found them in and badmouth us everywhere. Like when you're so afraid of that stuff happening and you're so protective of your reputation that you feel like you have to know everything ahead of time, that you have to be perfect, that your skills have to be on point, that you have to present yourself on your website in this perfect professional polished way. You have to have the best portfolio. You can never make a mistake. Nothing can ever go wrong, because if it does, people will find out that you're an imposter, that you don't really know what you're doing, that, oh, you're self-taught, and that makes you somehow less of a web designer, and they'll find you out for the fraud that you really are, right? You do all of this stuff to prevent that. And when you do that, you will either wait to start until everything is perfect, which nothing ever is, so you're perpetually delaying starting, or you downplay your pricing and you'll undercharge and over deliver because you don't feel like you can justify the price that a perfect web designer could justify. Or you'll spend tons of unpaid time researching and engineering solutions without getting paid for it. You'll spend tons of time on proposals to make them look professional. You'll just do all of these things to present yourself in a certain way. And that leaks so much time and money. That leaks so much time and money. And this is what that ends up looking like in your business. And the sneaky thing is that you're like, well, I'm unprofessional if I don't do these things. And so you stay stuck. The other way that it shows up is needing validation. And so I've coached so many web designers in our program who are like, I spend so much time and I procrastinate on that first design or whatever, because I just want to like knock it out of the park on the first shot. I just want them to fall in love with the very first draft. I want to get the A. I want the 100%. I want them to love it. And if they don't, I make it mean I'm not a good web designer. And that's, when you spend so much time like working by yourself without getting feedback from the client to like get it where it's supposed to be, that's where you end up overworking. You end up maybe delivering something that's not quite on the mark, and then you end up going back and doing extra work to get it where it could have been if you just would have let the client in and not needed to get the A right off the bat from the first moment. And so you have to stop making their feedback mean something about you and your skills and your self-worth, right? So the solution to overcome perfectionism is, and I talk about this with marketing too, like, it's not all about you. Your marketing, your messaging, the designs that you build, the things that you create, they're not about you. They are about your clients and what they need and what's possible for them. And so you have to shift your thinking and also your messaging and your marketing and all of the things that you put forward to show clients, make it about your clients. Think about your clients and stop making feedback mean something about you and your worth and your value. The feedback is not about you, it's about the client. And when you can separate like the work that you do being a reflection of you as a human versus the work that you do helping move your client forward towards their goal, that's going to take so much pressure off of you. You're going to operate more quickly. You're going to get to the A design faster, and you're just going to you're going to have a mental capacity to be creative, and you'll start actually enjoying it again. So if perfectionism is your thing, like, you've got to put the focus outward instead of inward. And so the fifth way that I'm just looking at the comments here. I'm like, oh, I there's so much good stuff going on in the comments. So hopefully I can read all of those afterwards. But I appreciate that this is hitting the mark for you guys. And so the fifth place that web design businesses leak time and money, systems and processes. I mean, I've talked about it in each of these other areas. So this is either not having systems and processes in place, or not having the right systems and processes in place, or missing some in certain areas of your business. And when you don't have systems and processes in place for your business, your clients, and your own time, your business runs you. And so I'm not really talking about your creative process when I talk about that, or your design and development process. That's really unique to every designer. It depends on what your packages are, what platforms you design on, the tools you use. You can absolutely streamline and standardize those for your development process, and that can save a ton of time. And some people like to have a standardized design process. Other people feel like it stifles their creativity. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about systems and processes, about like leading the client through every interaction with you, like I mentioned earlier, from the moment they know you exist to when you're closing the project and offering ongoing services. And the skill is having a process and system for every stage of that customer journey, but then also learning the skill of redirecting the client back to the established systems and processes. So some designers are awesome at building the systems. It's so fun, right? You get a new tool, you open, like you get Moxie, you open it up, you start building everything out. But then when it's time to like put the client through them and redirect them back to the systems and processes, you have all of these other leaks come up, right? Or other people resist systems and processes because they feel overwhelming or constraining. And other people use whatever systems and processes their clients want them to use. And then they find themselves like spread thin doing all kinds of different things for different clients, right? So when that happens, you are at the effect of your business. And if you design your systems and processes up front around your life, that makes your business sustainable to run. And when you learn the skill to lead your clients through them, even because your clients they don't know what your systems and processes are. Even if you've told them 5 times, you've given them a welcome guide, you've done a kickoff call with orientation, they are not going to know or remember or care about your systems and processes as much as you do. And so you get to just constantly redirect them back without making it mean that they don't respect you or that they don't care, that they don't want to pay you. You just get to redirect them back to your systems and processes that you have pre-thought of, pre-designed, and pre-built to work with your business and your life. And it's so much easier to do that than it feels easier to say yes to everything, right? But what's easier is to build the systems and processes and then just use those as the guide, as if they're the third party that's deciding how things are going to go, right? And so it's a huge opportunity in almost every web designer's business that I've met to put end-to-end systems and processes in place from that first interaction with the client, whether it's a random conversation on the soccer field or it's an official, they found you online and they're booking through your form, all the way to we close the project. Now here's what it looks like to work together going forward if that's something that you offer. And if this list of end-to-end systems and processes all the way from messaging to like closing the project looks familiar and it looks like what Moxie helps you build out, that's no accident, because they also know how important systems and processes are for saving time and money. And they know it goes way deeper than just having like a tool that you can use to automate those, right? So it's just a huge opportunity to think about, how do all of these pieces need to go? How do they fit together? And what does your life look like? I don't have kids. My life looks a lot different than my coaching clients who have children, and they have to build systems and processes to fit their life. So that is that's one thing. So having them is one thing. Learning how to, like, the skill of guiding your clients through them and managing your mind around it, that's another skill to learn. It's totally learnable skill. So I would love for you all to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 in each of these areas. Like, what is your leakiest place in your business? And you can just, in each of these areas, you don't have to like rank them. You can just assign yourself a score. And when I say 5, lots of leaks to fix, I just want you to think of like lots of opportunities to pick up a giant pile of time and money that's sitting there on the table, right? I don't want you to think of any of these places where you have a lot of leaks as like a problem. I want you to see it as an opportunity. I want you to get excited about, oh my gosh, if I fix this, I will have my life back and I will make the money that I want to be making. And so if you want to share your ranking, I would love to see where you are, or if you just want to share like what is your biggest opportunity, I would love to see that in the chat. I'm going to take a breath and a sip of water while y'all do that. I get really excited about this topic and talk really fast. So I was trying to think of some kind of metaphor about like a boat or needing a raincoat, but I couldn't come up with it. But like I said, fixing just one of these areas could have a huge impact on your business. There's probably one that's like the domino that will knock over all of the other dominoes for you. Like if you fix your employee mindset, it makes it easier to stop people pleasing and, all of those things. So even if you have leaks in a lot of places, you can pick the one that is like the one that resonates most with you, and it will go a long way to helping you fix all of the other areas. And so when you fix those leaks, you don't have to try to get better clients or add new services or learn new skills or change your niche or rebrand or all of the other things I see web designers do to try to solve the problem of not making enough money and overworking and all of the things that aren't actually the solution. And so to wrap this up, I just want to share 5 things that you can start doing right now, today, as soon as you leave here, to pick up the time and money that you've been leaving on the table. And you can implement these just based on the ratings that you gave yourself. If employee mindset is your biggest issue, which means you feel like you can't say no even when you want to, because it's like you'll lose security, safety, whatever. Come up when a client asks you for something that is outside of the scope, or wants to delay the project, or isn't ready, or whatever, like, come up with some options that you are fine with. So, old you and old me would have taken your laptop on vacation and woken up early to like get this thing done because it's an emergency for this client. And new you is going to say, hey, client, like, I know you need this thing next week because, like, you weren't prepared, or you're not going to say that, but, hey, I'm not available to do that for you. So here are your options. The next available spot on my development calendar is X, and I can schedule you for then. And here's how much that costs. Or I'm happy to give you instructions on how to do it yourself. However, I'm on vacation. I won't be available to support you during that time since I'll be offline with my family. But when I'm back, I'm happy to help you. And here's how much that costs. Which do you prefer, right? So come up with choices that if you were in control of your business, which you are, you're okay with, and give your client options and state the fact that it will cost more if it's out of scope. Like, it's the sky is blue. Like, it's just normal. Of course, they would expect to pay for something that they haven't, that isn't in the contract or is out of scope. So you have to decide ahead of time what you're willing to do. And when you give your client options, you don't have to say no. It feels like when we think about saying no, sometimes we're like, oh, no means I'm going to start a conflict. And I don't want to start a conflict. So I'm just going to say yes. It's easier to just do it. How many of us have thought it's easier to just do it? Here's another easy way, is to say, what am I willing to do, if anything? And give your client options, let them choose. So you might be saying no to the thing that they're asking you to by saying, here's what I'm willing to do. So it's just, that's one of like the core things that we talk about at the Web Designer Academy, is empowering your clients with choices. They're adults. They can make their own decisions within your boundaries, right? Same thing with people pleasing. If that's your biggest issue, which means you feel compelled to say yes, like at your own expense, because you want to help people, you want people to like you. A lot of times with people pleasers, someone will come to you, you'll get like a consultation, and they'll be like, I've already spent so much money with other web designers and they didn't do it right. They'll have like this big sob story. And they'll be like, I really want to work with you because I think you can do it, but I don't have much of a budget, right? And old you would have been like, oh my gosh, I have to fix this for them. I can't believe that they've already been through all this. They've already spent so much money on this. I have to save them, and I can't charge that much. They've already spent way too much, right? New you is going to say, I can imagine how frustrating that's been for you. My process is designed to prevent that from happening should we work together. Here are some options for working together. Here's what they cost, and they're your normal price. Which would you prefer? How would you like to move forward, right? So you can empathize with people without having to take on the burden of their previous problem if you're a people pleaser. And if you're a people pleaser, same solution as employee mindset. Come up with choices that are profitable and sustainable for you, and maintain your autonomy, freedom, and independence, and offer those to your client and let them choose. They are not your boss. You don't have to like say yes to the way that they want it done. If it like crosses your boundaries in terms of how you want to run your business. If being in their wallet is your biggest issue, which means you're constantly thinking about their money and their budget and making sure they get their money's worth, you must practice passionate detachment. I listen to the Smart List podcast. I don't know if you guys listen to that, but they talk like the hosts of that always talk about passionate detachment, sexy indifference, which means you make an offer at a price that is profitable and sustainable for you to deliver, and you focus on the value and the results and really paint the picture of what's possible for them when they use the website that you build for them. And then you don't make their answer mean anything about you either way. If they tell you they can't afford it or you're too expensive, if you decide that when someone says they can't afford it, you're too expensive, and you come down on your price for them, it's essentially like writing them a check from your bank account to cover the difference. It's like, would you pay for the part of their project? Probably not. So stay out of their wallet and let them decide how they want to spend their money, and just don't make their money situation mean anything about you. And if perfectionism is your biggest issue, which means you procrastinate and you overwork and you're constantly seeking reassurance from your clients that you're good enough, and you're put so much pressure on yourself to never make a mistake and know everything ahead of time, every time you notice that you're making the project about you, you've got to shift to making it about them. Every time you notice you're making your website about you, you got to shift to making it about the clients who are going to be so lucky to find you. And anytime you think about not being good enough, put the focus back on the client and their business and their life, and not about whether you look good or professional. And if you're procrastinating and overworking and judging yourself and burning yourself out, that's not good for the client or the project. So it is in your best interest to like get out of that like negative self-talk and just be like, thank you for sharing that. I don't need to hear that. I'm focused on them and their results. And that can help you kind of break out of that perfectionist cycle. And if systems and processes is your biggest issue, aside from implementing a tool like Moxie to streamline and automate your systems and build out these end-to-end systems, set dates for every part of your project. Systems break down when the system doesn't know when things are supposed to happen. So if you have your systems and processes built, but you're not like following them, likely you're missing like having dates for when things should happen, a date for when your proposal expires, a date for when the project will kick off, a date for when the client should have their content to you, a date for when you will start development, a date for when the project will end. And then you get to hold your client to those dates and remind them of those dates and like let them know when things are happening. And also get buy-in from your clients about all of those dates for every part of the project too. And that's the key to like keeping projects moving forward and keeping the money flowing in and keeping the systems working, because systems need to know when things are happening to continue to move forward. And so if you're resistant to setting dates, that's something to look at. I was so resistant to setting dates. Back then I'm like, well, I don't know if I can get that done, or I want freedom. And if I put time constraints around this, then I won't have freedom. But if you believe that you can set dates around your life and your schedule and your kids and your family, and you set dates around that and not about like not with your clients, right? Then you have freedom, right? Because you can look at you, if you put yourself in your life first, set dates around that, then you have freedom. And so it might not feel easy at first to make these simple changes, but the more that you do it, the more you don't get the blowback that you're afraid of, the more you'll start reaping the rewards of more time and money and more control over your time and money. And so I'm going to give you one quick bonus place before we wrap up that it's not so sneaky that most web design businesses leak time and money. And I want to make sure you know about this, and then we'll have time for questions, is pricing. Straight up, most web designers are massively undercharging. The Admin Bar recently did a survey that found that 72% of designers are charging less than $5,000 on a website, and the average time in business for these designers was 11 years. That is not okay. What you do is worth so much more, and that level is not sustainable, as everybody knows, because the other challenge that they say is work-life balance. And so part of the reason for that is like what we talked about here today, like what we think we're allowed to charge and what we're allowed to do. And the truth is, you get to make all the rules. So if you want to become one of the 28% of web designers who are charging more than 5K and making more than six figures, it isn't to learn more skills and niche down and get a better portfolio. It's to start thinking about what you do in a completely different way, to know the value of it to your clients, to talk about the value, to paint the picture of the value, to be able to communicate to your clients in a confident and authentic way, and to be able to set a sincere price based on that, truly believe in it, and then lead your clients through the process without the employee mindset, the perfectionism, the people pleasing, the being in their wallets, and having not having systems and processes. So if you're interested in learning more about this, I put together a free course for you. You can sign up at webdesigneracademy.com/free course. It goes deeper on the concepts we talked about here today, talks about how your personality comes into play to influence those times and money leaks, and also teaches our profitable pricing framework to get you thinking about your web design business and pricing in an entirely new way. So you can get that at webdesigneracademy.com/free course. And that's it. That's all I have for you today. So yeah, I'll hand it back over to you, Austin, for questions, since there's so much going on in the chat that I didn't catch.
Yeah, there was some guy who was just blowing up the chat, and whoever that was just needs to dial it back. I think his name was Austin. No,
Austin. He's the
I
worst.
mean, he is the worst, especially on the weekends. That was so helpful and insightful, Shannon. And
Thank you.
that's coming from a guy who's been doing it 15 years. And everything you described, overcoming some of those mindset traps, every single one is pivotal. Every single one. What would you say to some of the folks listening, watching, who maybe feel like, oh, well, I have all of these going on, And so, do you have any advice in terms of like the very next step that people can take if they feel like all of these are a challenge right now?
Yeah. So usually there's a client involved, right? If all of these are a challenge right now, I'm guessing that you can think of one or two clients right now that are the majority of this problem. If you're anything like me, everything that I taught here, I experienced as well in my business. And so I always like to have people kind of do like a little, like get out a spreadsheet, write that client's name at the top. Like, what are you working on with them? What are your biggest challenges with them? And this is like a pivotal question to ask yourself, is like, if I set a boundary with this client in a way that we talked about here today, and they were to decide that me changing the rules of engagement or the relationship would mean that they would no longer want to work with me, which, would change. I wouldn't get paid by them anymore or whatever. Am I okay with that? And so, like, make a list. And I'm always like, start by implementing a boundary with the easiest one, the one that you think like, I'd be okay if this person left, or I think I really trust this person and all I need to do is like like, I didn't know I could have boundaries. Now that I do, I'm going to give this person a choice. And I feel like they're a safe person to test this out with. I would do that. Like list out your clients, list out the biggest problem that you're having with that client. And then what choices would you like to give them? And if they don't like those choices and decided to leave, would you be okay with that? And then rank it and just pick one to test. Because once you get over that and you don't like burst into flames, or like the worst doesn't happen, or they do leave and you're relieved that they chose to leave and you didn't have to fire them, quote unquote, it gets so much easier to like solve the next one and solve the next one and solve the next one.
Yes. Tell me if your experience matches mine. I was afraid that if I established boundaries, then what you talked about would happen. I would somehow tarnish my reputation. Maybe that client would try to harm me in some way.
Yep.
But I never, I mean, the times that that has happened over 15 years, it's like maybe once or twice someone
Yeah.
has been that ugly. Um, has Have you experienced clients actually doing what we fear the most, which is proactively trying to hurt our businesses?
Yeah, so I haven't personally, and I think that like most, this is what I've noticed about myself. My brain likes to think the worst of people, because by thinking the worst of
Mm,
other people, it's going to protect me.
it's like
So if I'm like,
self-protection,
oh,
right?
yeah, like thinking the worst of your clients like that is self-protection. And so, but I have coached students in our program that they did, that they were prepared, that they thought that this client wasn't going to take it well. And so we
Hmm.
came up with a plan for like, okay, and when they don't take it well, then what? Because the truth is, anybody who is you're going to set a boundary with them, they're going to be angry, and then they're going to just go like talk crap about you somewhere. That makes them look so unprofessional. And the other people around them typically know that that person's already problematic.
Yes, you
And
have
they
to
don't
trust those
typically
people's
respect
maturity
them.
too.
Yes.
Yes.
So when someone is like, don't ever go work with this person, blah, 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 blah. I like, I don't know about you. Like when I read bad reviews about something online, I'm like, that person's ridiculous.
Has a
That
screw
bad
loose.
review is ridiculous. And this good, like, there's so many more good reviews, So, like, this has happened where one of our students set a boundary. The thing that she feared the most, networking group, this person wrote a nasty post about her. The owner of the group removed the woman who did that from the group.
Amazing.
And so you have to have the courage to do it in the first place. And that's why
Hmm.
it's like maybe one of the last people on your list. If you're not feeling super bold about it, you build up some small wins, and then you deal with the one that you know how they're going to react, and it's not going to be good. But trust everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, that's good. It's like get a little win under your belt with maybe your safest client, and
Yeah.
then you can sort of have a slightly bigger bet next time. Ray Lynn said something that I thought was really interesting. It wasn't a question, but I was wondering if you could offer some advice, because I've been in this boat too. Raylan said, I feel guilty for what they experienced before. And that's what leads, I
Yep.
think, to, I call it like a sob story. They start pulling on your heartstrings. And before
Yep.
you know it, you hear yourself undercutting your own prices to tie on your cape, jump in, save the day.
Yep.
What advice would you give to Raylan and to Austin when our hearts get involved like that?
And to Shannon. I feel it too. And I don't think of sob stories and things like that as like people trying to manipulate me. Most of the time they truly are experiencing some hardship. Um
Hmm.
but the thing that I would say, like one of the things is that, you know, you have to have the capacity to put your cape on, right? Like if you're in a great place in your business, and you have the time freedom, you're making the money, you're taken care of, your family's taken care of, and you have the capacity to do that and you want to do it, like I'm not here to tell anybody to not do that, but when it comes at the expense of your business, your capacity, your mental health, your physical health, your family,
Mm-hmm.
you're actually doing that client a disservice by stepping in to help because you're not at your full capacity to be able to help them. And then the relationship
Mm-hmm.
actually gets a little like messed up because you come in as the savior and you're not holding them as like capable and responsible of figuring this out. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone comes to me with like, I've spent so much money and this is all I have, I'm like, and I want to help them, I'm like, here's what I can do for that. I'm not going to lower my
Mm-hmm.
price on the whole thing, but if this is what you want, here's what I can do. And if I can't help them, if I don't think what I'm willing to do for that money is actually going to help them, I'm going to respectfully decline to work with them because I'm going to
Yes.
say, I
Yeah.
can't, for your current budget, I'm not going to be able to get you what you actually really
I
need.
can't in good conscience
Yes.
agree to
It's
that
not in
with
your
your
best
current budget.
interest. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not in your best
that is
interest.
so good.
So you have to take
Um,
care of them, even if it's by not working with them.
yeah, and I've found that if I lead with that kind of truth and care, those people often come back later,
Mhm.
um, even if I turned them down and they were disappointed. But
Yeah.
anyway, Shannon, you have so much wisdom, and I'm very grateful that I got to sit at your feet and learn today. And I can see from the chat, everyone else feels the same way. So thank you so much for giving us the gift of your presence and your wisdom today. And we will share around the replay and hope you all have just a terrific day. Go do the one thing you identified. Go do the one thing.
Thank you. I
All
really
right.
appreciate it.
We'll see you next time, everybody.